The sun beat down on Harmony Creek, a town so quiet, the loudest sound was usually Mrs. Gable's prize-winning rooster. For Officers Johnson and Ramirez, it was another slow Tuesday. Fresh out of the academy and eager to make a difference, they patrolled in their shiny new cruiser, hoping for something, anything, to break the monotony. Johnson, the taller of the two, adjusted his sunglasses. "Think we'll ever catch a real bad guy in this town, Ramirez?" Ramirez chuckled, "Maybe a jaywalker, if we're lucky." They were good cops, both of them. They just wanted to prove it. They wanted to show everyone they were more than just guys who helped old ladies cross the street. They wanted to make their mark, uphold the law, and maybe, just maybe, become heroes. What they didn't know was that their chance to prove themselves was about to arrive in the form of a beat-up, old pickup truck. Harmony Creek wasn't just quiet, it was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone else's business. The local newspaper, the Harmony Herald, printed stories about bake sales and the annual pie-eating contest. The biggest crime reported in the last decade was someone stealing Mr. Peterson's prize-winning zucchini. For Johnson and Ramirez, this meant a lot of waving at friendly faces and helping tourists find the best apple pie. While they appreciated the friendly atmosphere, they both felt a yearning for something more. They had trained for serious situations, learned complex laws, and practiced life-saving techniques. All that knowledge felt wasted on directing traffic and breaking up the occasional argument between neighbors. They wanted to be more than just peacekeepers, they wanted to be heroes. That desire, however well-intentioned, would soon lead them down a path they never expected. As they cruised down Main Street, Officer Ramirez pointed. "Hey, check out that truck." Officer Johnson followed his gaze. It was an old, faded blue pickup, the kind you'd see parked in a field, not driving on a public road. The paint was peeling, and the back bumper was held on with what looked like duct tape and wishful thinking. But that wasn't what caught Ramirez's attention. "See that tail light? It's completely busted," he said, his voice rising with a hint of excitement. "And the license plate? Looks expired. Probably hasn't been renewed in years." Johnson squinted. "You're right. Think we should pull him over?" Ramirez grinned. "Absolutely. This could be it, Johnson. Our chance to finally do some real police work." He flipped on the lights and siren, a little louder than necessary. The old truck, oblivious to the drama unfolding behind it, continued to putter along at a leisurely pace. The truck finally sputtered to a stop on the side of the road. Johnson and Ramirez approached cautiously, their hands resting on their holsters, adrenaline starting to pump. This was it. Their first real stop. As they got closer, they could see the driver. He was an elderly man, his face etched with wrinkles, his silver hair thinning. He wore a faded flannel shirt and looked utterly bewildered by the flashing lights in his rearview mirror. Johnson took the lead, approaching the driver's side window. Ramirez hung back slightly, observing. Johnson leaned down, trying to project an air of authority. "Good afternoon, sir. Do you know why I pulled you over?" The old man blinked slowly, his eyes a little unfocused. "Pulled me over? No, officer, I can't say that I do." His voice was raspy, like dry leaves crunching underfoot. He seemed more confused than defiant, which slightly deflated Ramirez's excitement. Still, a law was a law. "Your taillight is broken, sir," Johnson explained, pointing to the shattered lens. "And your registration appears to be expired." He kept his voice neutral, but a hint of impatience crept in. This was taking longer than he expected. The old man squinted again, as if trying to see the taillight himself. "Oh, my. Is that so? I hadn't noticed." He reached for his wallet, his hands trembling slightly. "I must have forgotten to get that taken care of. I've been meaning to." He trailed off, lost in thought. "License and registration, please," Johnson said, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice. He knew he needed to be professional, but the old man's confusion was starting to wear on him. He just wanted to write the ticket and get back on patrol. Ramirez, watching from the side, shifted his weight, eager to see how this played out. He expected Johnson to be firm but fair. The old man fumbled with his wallet, dropping it once, then again. Each time, Johnson's jaw tightened a little more. He reminded himself to be patient, but it was difficult. "Sir, are you having trouble finding your license?" he asked, his voice a little sharper this time. I know it's in here somewhere," the old man mumbled, shuffling through a stack of faded photographs and old receipts. He pulled out a library card, a grocery list, and a crumpled dollar bill, but no license. Ramirez stepped closer, sensing Johnson's rising frustration. He understood the need to follow procedure, but he also felt a pang of sympathy for the old man. Still, rules were rules. "Sir, could you please just focus on finding your license and registration?" he said, his tone polite but firm. They were trained to be respectful, but also to maintain control of the situation. And right now, the situation felt like it was slipping away. Minutes ticked by, and the old man still hadn't found his license or registration. He was sweating now, his brow furrowed in concentration. Johnson exchanged a look with Ramirez. The old man's disorientation, combined with the expired registration and broken taillight, was starting to paint a picture. "Sir," Johnson said, his voice firm. "Have you had anything to drink today?" The old man looked up, startled. "Drink?" "No, officer, not a drop." "Are you taking any medications that might impair your ability to drive?" Ramirez added, his eyes scanning the man's face for any signs of intoxication. The old man shook his head, his confusion deepening. "No, sir. Just my heart pills. But those don't make me sleepy." Johnson sighed. "Sir, for your safety and ours, we're going to have to ask you to step out of the vehicle." He knew this was escalating quickly, but he felt like he had no other choice. Something wasn't right. "Step out?" "But officer, I don't understand," the old man protested, his voice trembling. "I haven't done anything wrong." He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. "Sir, please, for your own safety," Ramirez said, trying to soften Johnson's directive. He could see the fear in the old man's eyes. This was going too far, too fast. Johnson, however, was determined to follow protocol. "Sir, if you don't comply, we will have to assist you." He reached for the door handle. With a sigh of defeat, the old man slowly released his grip on the wheel. He opened the door and, with considerable effort, climbed out of the truck. He swayed slightly, his balance unsteady. Johnson quickly moved to support him, but the old man flinched away, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and hurt. The situation was spiraling out of control, and both officers could feel it. This wasn't how they envisioned their first real stop. With the old man standing shakily on the roadside, Johnson began a quick search of the truck. Ramirez watched the old man, trying to offer a reassuring smile, but the man just stared back with vacant eyes. The search was uneventful. No drugs, no weapons, nothing illegal. Just a lot of old newspapers, a half-empty coffee cup, and a well-worn map of Harmony Creek. As Johnson reached into the glove compartment, his fingers brushed against something small and metallic. He pulled it out. It was a medal, tarnished with age and almost black with oxidation. It wasn't immediately recognizable, but it had a distinctive ribbon and a weighty feel. Johnson frowned. He didn't recognize the specific award, but he knew enough to understand it was military-related. He held it up for Ramirez to see. "Think you know what this is?" he asked, his voice lower now, a hint of uncertainty creeping in. This wasn't part of their training manual. Ramirez took the medal, turning it over in his hands. He may not have known every military award, but he recognized this one. "That's a Silver Star, Johnson," he said, his voice hushed with respect. "That's a very big deal." Johnson's eyes widened. He knew the Silver Star was a high honor, awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat. A wave of shame washed over him. He looked at the old man, standing forlornly by the side of the road, and suddenly, everything changed. "Sir," Johnson said, approaching the old man cautiously. "Is this your medal?" He held it out, his hand trembling slightly. The old man glanced at the medal, his expression unreadable. For a moment, he didn't say anything. Then, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. "Yes," he said softly. "That's mine." The air crackled with unspoken questions and a heavy sense of unease. The officers knew they had made a mistake, but they didn't yet understand the magnitude of it. "Sir," Ramirez began hesitantly, "if you don't mind us asking, how did you earn this medal?" The old man looked away, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. He seemed reluctant to talk about it, as if the memories were too painful to revisit. "It was a long time ago," he mumbled. "Doesn't matter anymore." Johnson persisted gently, "Sir, with all due respect, this medal represents incredible bravery. We would be honored to hear your story, if you're willing to share it." After a long silence, the old man sighed. "It was in Korea," he began, his voice barely a whisper. There was a battle." He paused, struggling to find the words. "I just did what I had to do." He finally admitted, "I'm a veteran. Fought in Korea." Name's Arthur Jenkins. The weight of his past, and the respect it deserved, settled heavily in the air. The young officers were speechless. The air shimmered, the dusty roadside fading into a distant, snow-covered Korean battlefield. The year was 1952. Young Arthur Jenkins, barely more than a boy himself, was a medic, tending to wounded soldiers under heavy fire. An enemy grenade landed near a group of injured men, threatening to kill them all. Without hesitation, Arthur threw himself on the grenade, shielding his comrades from the blast. Miraculously, he survived, though severely wounded. His selfless act saved the lives of at least 3 men that day. For his bravery and sacrifice, he was awarded the Silver Star. The scene dissolved, returning to the present. The weight of Arthur's past heroism hung heavy in the air between the young officers and the old man. The beat-up truck, the expired registration, the broken taillight, none of it mattered anymore. They were in the presence of a true hero. Johnson felt his stomach churn with guilt. How could he have been so quick to judge this man? He had been so focused on enforcing the law, he had forgotten the importance of respect and understanding. The shame was almost unbearable. Ramirez felt it too. He looked at Arthur Jenkins, seeing not a confused old man, but a hero, a man who had risked his life for his country. Their eagerness to prove themselves now seemed foolish, even pathetic. They had been so blinded by their desire for action that they had almost disrespected a true American hero. The silence stretched, thick with regret. Johnson knew he had to say something, to somehow make amends for their behavior. He just didn't know where to begin. The weight of their mistake pressed down on them, heavier than any crime they might encounter in Harmony Creek. They were supposed to protect and serve, but they had almost done the opposite. Finally, Johnson stepped forward, his voice thick with sincerity. "Mr. Jenkins," he said, we owe you a huge apology. We were completely out of line. We were so focused on following procedure that we forgot to treat you with the respect you deserve. Especially given your service to this country." He continued, "What you did in Korea, it's truly remarkable. We are deeply sorry for the way we treated you." He extended his hand. "Thank you for your service, sir." Ramirez nodded in agreement, his own voice filled with remorse. "We understand if you're angry, sir. We deserve it. But we hope you can find it in your heart to forgive us. We promise to do better." The weight of their apology hung in the air, a plea for forgiveness and a commitment to learn from their mistakes. Seeing the sincerity in Johnson's eyes, Ramirez added, "Sir, about that taillight. I know it's not much, but I'd be happy to fix it for you. I've got some tools in the trunk. It's the least I can do." He felt a genuine desire to help, to somehow undo the harm they had caused. Arthur Jenkins looked from one officer to the other, his expression softening. He saw the remorse in their eyes, the genuine desire to make things right. He saw perhaps, a reflection of the young men he had served alongside in Korea, eager and full of good intentions, but sometimes misguided. A faint smile touched his lips. "Well, boys," he said, his voice a little stronger now, "I appreciate the offer. That taillight has been bothering me for a while." He paused. "All right, son. Let's see what you can do." It was a small gesture, but it was a start. It was a sign that perhaps forgiveness was possible. As Ramirez worked on the taillight, Arthur Jenkins began to share stories from his past. He spoke of the friends he had lost in Korea, the challenges they faced, and the sacrifices they made. He talked about the importance of courage, loyalty, and treating everyone with respect, regardless of their background. Johnson listened intently, absorbing every word. He realized that Arthur wasn't just telling stories, he was imparting wisdom, sharing lessons learned through a lifetime of service and sacrifice. It was a masterclass in humanity, delivered on the side of a dusty road in Harmony Creek. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the landscape. The broken taillight was fixed, but something more profound had been repaired as well. A bridge had been built between two generations, a connection forged through humility, forgiveness, and the shared understanding of what it truly means to serve. The officers started to understand real action was showing respect and understanding. Despite the newfound understanding between the officers and Arthur, Harmony Creek was still a small town, and news traveled fast. Soon, everyone knew about the traffic stop, and the fact that the police had pulled over Arthur Jenkins, a local legend, a war hero. The initial reaction was far from positive. Some residents were outraged, accusing the officers of disrespecting a veteran. Others felt that Arthur had been unfairly targeted because of his age and the condition of his truck. Whispers of police brutality and overzealous young cops spread like wildfire through the town's coffee shops and diners. The Harmony Herald ran a front-page story with the headline, "Local Veteran Harassed by Police." The article, while factually accurate, emphasized the negative aspects of the incident, further fueling the public's anger. Johnson and Ramirez suddenly found themselves facing the very thing they had been trying to avoid, the disapproval of their community. Their attempt to do real police work had backfired spectacularly. Mayor Thompson, a decorated Vietnam veteran himself, understood the importance of both respecting veterans and maintaining a strong police force. He knew that the situation required a delicate touch. He called a town meeting, inviting Arthur Jenkins, officers Johnson and Ramirez, and concerned citizens to attend. At the meeting, Mayor Thompson spoke eloquently about the need for understanding and forgiveness. He acknowledged the officers' mistake but also emphasized their genuine remorse and their commitment to serving the community. He praised Arthur Jenkins for his bravery and his contributions to Harmony Creek. He then proposed a series of community events designed to bridge the gap between the police and the residents. These included a Coffee with a Cops program, where residents could chat with officers in a relaxed setting, and a joint volunteer effort to clean up the town's veteran memorial. Mayor Thompson saw this as an opportunity to turn a negative situation into a positive one, strengthening the bonds that held Harmony Creek together. Johnson and Ramirez eagerly volunteered for every community event, eager to demonstrate their commitment to serving Harmony Creek. They poured coffee at Coffee with a Cop, patiently answering questions and listening to residents' concerns. They helped clean up the veteran memorial, carefully polishing the names of fallen soldiers and sharing stories with anyone who would listen. They even organized a fundraising drive to help Arthur Jenkins repair his truck, proving their dedication to helping him. They started to see that serving wasn't about catching bad guys or enforcing every minor infraction. It was about building relationships, earning trust, and showing compassion. Slowly but surely, the negative sentiment began to fade. People saw the officers' genuine remorse and their willingness to make amends. They realized that everyone makes mistakes, and what matters most is how you learn from them. Johnson and Ramirez were no longer seen as overzealous young cops, but as dedicated members of the community, committed to serving and protecting all its citizens. An unlikely friendship blossomed between Arthur Jenkins and the two young officers. Johnson and Ramirez would often visit Arthur at his small, cozy home, sharing stories, seeking advice, and simply enjoying his company. Arthur became a mentor to them, teaching them about life, service, and the importance of treating everyone with dignity and respect. He told them stories about his time in Korea, not just the heroic moments, but also the everyday struggles, the friendships forged in the face of adversity, and the importance of never giving up hope. He shared his insights on community, reminding them that Harmony Creek was more than just a collection of houses and streets, it was a family, and they were all responsible for taking care of each other. The officers learned to see Arthur not just as a war hero, but as a man, with his own strengths, weaknesses, and stories to tell. And Arthur, in turn, saw the officers not just as young cops, but as individuals with good hearts, eager to learn and make a difference. The story of Arthur Jenkins and the two young officers became a reminder to Harmony Creek and to Johnson and Ramirez themselves about the importance of looking beyond first impressions. It was a lesson about respecting our elders, honoring our veterans, and recognizing the inherent value in every human being, regardless of their age, appearance, or background. Johnson and Ramirez never forgot their initial mistake. It shaped their careers, guiding them to be more compassionate, understanding, and thoughtful in their interactions with the community. They learned that true heroism isn't always about catching criminals or enforcing the law, it's about building relationships, earning trust, and serving with humility and respect. And so, in the quiet town of Harmony Creek, a broken taillight led to a broken barrier, and a new understanding bloomed. The young officers, once so eager to prove themselves, finally found the true meaning of service, not in the pursuit of action, but in the quiet act of human connection. They knew that the respect and understanding that they showed made Harmony Creek a better and safer place to live.